Hello there. Thanks for stopping by Max's Cards and Dice Dugout. Robert Max here. Hope everyone's doing well. This is episode 158, and we have a new game in the dugout. A game that's been making a lot of news in the tabletop sports community. That's Drive Time Football from Powder Blue Sports and creator John Turnbull. Mr. Turnbull has been gracious enough to provide this game to us game players for free. If you go on Facebook and search for Drive Time Football, there is a group, lots of stuff in the files section of the group, several NFL seasons, the college teams from this year, along with all of the bowl games have just been released recently. So for me personally, the most important football event of the football season is the Army-Navy game. As a veteran, it's just real important to me, and, no matter who has the most points tomorrow, both of these teams are winners. They have respect for each other, and they have each other's backs, literally. So I took the two teams from obviously Army and Navy, I took them from the bowl game set, printed and cut out the cards for the two teams, and thought for my first game, why not play the Army-Navy game? The 125th meeting of these two teams will be taking place at Northwest Stadium, formerly known as FedEx Field, where the Washington Commanders play. All right, so there are several videos out there that explain how the game is played. So I won't go through too much detail. I'll just explain the die that I'm using. I have a binary die, 3 1s and 3 0s. I'll be using this to determine which chart will be, or which chart we'll be looking at. 0, of course, I'm going to use that for O, for offense. The 2 green die is the number we'll look up on the chart. And the rules also call for a safety die, where the occurrence of a safety on a roll of a 12, when there's a yellow box in for the 12, it occurs 1/3 of the time. I'm going to say that happens on a roll of a 1 or a 6. Okay, so we'll get right to it. Navy's first drive. The visitor goes first, and this year that is Navy. First drive is coming from their offensive chart. And it's a roll of a 9. And on a 9, Navy punts. So a roll of a 9 and a punt. 0 for Navy on their first drive. Okay, Army's first drive. It's coming from Navy's defensive chart. And it's a roll of an 8. And that's also a punt. So we're scoreless after the first 2 drives. Navy's second drive in the first quarter is coming from their offensive chart. The roll is a 10. And on Navy's offensive chart, a 10 is also a punt. So nothing so far. Army's second drive of the first quarter. It's coming off of Navy's defense. And the roll is a 6. And on Navy's defense, a 6 is a trip to the red zone for the Black Knights. All right, so we're going to be looking at Navy's defensive chart in the red zone section. And we roll a 10, and a 10 is a touchdown run. Army is automatic on the extra point on a roll of 2 to 12. There is a provision in the rules, an optional rule. On a roll of a 12 with a 1 or a 6 on the safety die, the extra point is no good. But it is good, and Army leads 7-0. Okay, now we're going to roll for extra drives in the first quarter. Navy gets an extra drive on a 2 to 9. And we roll a 9. So Navy, 9. Yes. And now we'll roll for the full drive. It's coming from Navy's offense. I'm just going to put an O there. And the roll is a 3. And Navy's offense on a 3 is a fumble. Army does not have the opportunity to return a fumble for a touchdown. So Navy ends the first quarter with no points. Army's extra drive will occur on a 2-5. And we roll a 5, so that is a yes. So Army gets the extra drive. It's coming from Navy's defense. And the roll is a 4. Navy's defense on a 4 is a punt. All right, so the first quarter is completed, and Army leads 7-0. So now we go to the first possession or drive of the second quarter, and that'll be Navy again. It's coming from Army's defensive chart, and the roll is a 6. So Army's defensive chart and a 6 is another punt. Army holding Navy scoreless so far. So Navy's first drive of the second quarter is a 0. Next we have Army. It's coming from their offense, and it's an 11. And Army's offense on 11 is another trip to the red zone. This time we're going to be looking at Army's offensive red zone. We roll a 7. It's a touchdown pass. And we'll roll for the extra point. The extra point is good. And now Army leads 14-0. So now we go to drive 2 of the second quarter. With Navy going first. It's coming from Army's defensive chart. And the roll is a 10. So Army's defense on a 10 is a turnover on down. So Navy goes for it on 4th down. Army stops them again. They're being very stingy so far in this game. And Navy's second possession is also a 0. Second possession in the second quarter. Army. This is coming from their offense, and the roll is a 7. Army's offense on the 7 is another trip to the red zone. Looking at Army's red zone offensive chart, and we roll a 7, and that is a touchdown pass. 2 touchdown passes for Army. Extra point is good, and it's now 21-0 in favor of the Black Knights. All right, so next is to roll for extra drive here at the end of the second quarter. Navy will go first. They get the extra drive on a 2-9. They roll a 10. That's a no. The extra drive is a no for Navy. Army gets the extra drive on a 2-5. They roll that 5. And that's a yes. Army with a chance to score some more points here right before the end of the half. It's coming off of Navy's defensive chart, and the roll is a 6. And it's another trip to the red zone for the Black Knights. They are pouring it on. All right. Looking at Army's offensive chart in the red zone, we roll a 4, and that's another touchdown. This time it's on the ground. Navy has not been able to stop them. Extra point is good. And it's now at halftime with Army scoring 21 points in the second quarter. It's Army 28, Navy nothing. So we go to the second half. Navy needs to score some points quickly here to get back in this game. Navy's first possession is coming from their offensive chart. The roll is a 6. And finally, they make a trip into the red zone. So we'll be looking at Navy's offensive column in the red zone. We roll a 5. That's a touchdown pass. So Navy's going to get on the board here. Their extra point is not automatic. They make it on a roll of a 2 to 10. They roll a 10, and it doinks off the upright and goes through. And on Navy's first possession of the third quarter, they score, and it's now 28-7. All right, Army's first possession in the third is coming off of their offensive chart, and it's an 8. And Army's offensive chart, an 8, is another trip to the red zone. Looking at Army's offense in the red zone, it's a 5. It's a touchdown run. So Army negates that touchdown pass from Navy to keep their lead at 28 points. Well, we got to kick the extra point first, and it's good. So Army scores again, and it's now 35-7. We go to the second possession of the third for Navy. That's coming from their offensive chart, and it's an 11. And it's an interception. Army cannot return an interception for a touchdown, so that's how that drive ends. Army's next drive here in the third quarter is coming from Navy's defense, and it's an 8. Navy's defense on an 8 is a punt. So they get a stop, a much-needed stop. And now we're going to the extra possessions for the third quarter. Navy will get that extra possession, extra drive on a 2 to 9. They roll an 8, so this time it's a yes. It's going to be coming from Army's defensive chart, and the roll is a 5. And on Army's defense, a 5 is a red zone trip for Navy. Navy is in the red zone. The rules state that it doesn't necessarily mean they're inside the 20, but we'll be looking at the Navy's offensive column in their red zone chart. We roll a 6, and a 6 is a touchdown pass. Extra point is good on a 2 to 9. Or excuse me, a 2 to 10, and it's good on the 5. So Navy's extra drive gives them 7 and 14 for the third quarter. Now Army will get the extra drive on a 2 to 5. It's a 6, so that's a no. So Army's extra drive. Navy scores 14 in the third, Army 7. Army leads 35-14 as we go into the fourth quarter. Now, there is a provision in the rules that say if you want to add possibly more excitement, the team that's leading will go first in the fourth quarter, and that can change if the lead changes, but that's an optional rule. Well, we're going to use it. Army's going to go first here in the fourth with the first drive. It's coming off of their offense. And the roll is a 7. So Army's offense on a 7 is another trip to the red zone. And we'll look at their offensive red zone chart. 6 is a field goal. First field goal of the game. And they pick up 3 there. So on their first drive in the fourth quarter, they get a 3. And now it is 41-14. Navy. Their first drive here in the fourth is coming off of their offensive chart, and it's an 11. And it's another INT. For Army, cannot be returned. There was a chance for Navy to close the gap a little bit there, holding Army to a field goal. Now Army's second possession is coming off of Navy's defense, and the roll is a 6. Navy's defense in a 6 is another trip to the red zone. They are just pouring it on. That's going to come off of Navy's defensive red zone chart. I believe that's the way this works. And a roll of a 6 is a touchdown pass. Extra point for Army is good. All right. Navy's second possession, second drive here in the fourth. It's coming off of Army's defense, and the roll is a 9. Army's defense on a 9 is a turnover on downs. Navy is stopped going for it on fourth down. Army stops them, and this game is just about over. All right, so now extra possessions. There's going to be 3 of them here at the end. Army will go first. They still have the lead. They lead 28, 35, 38, 45-14. All right, so Army gets the extra drive on a 2-5. You roll an 8, and that's a no. That's a no. The 0 goes there, so Army gets a 0 in their first extra drive. Now Navy. They get the extra drive. I only needed to roll the green die. On a 2-9, they roll a 4. So that's a yes. Now we'll roll all the dice. It's going to come from their offensive chart, and it is an 8. And Navy's offensive chart, the 8 is a red zone trip. So maybe they can make this respectable. Coming off of Navy's offense here, we roll a 9, and it's a touchdown run. Extra point is good on a 2-10. And it's good on a roll of a 9. So on Navy's first extra drive, they pick up 7. Army, extra drive on a 2-5. Roll that 5, so they're going to get this drive. It's a yes. And it's coming from their offensive chart and a roll of 5. The Army's offense on a roll of 5 is a punt, so Navy stops them. And on their second extra drive, they get a 0. Now it's Navy's turn. They get the extra drive on a 2-9. Roll a 6, and that's a yes. Navy's extra drive is going to be coming from Army's defensive chart, and the roll is a 7. Army's defense in a 7 is an interception. That is what? The third interception for Navy. Army picking up the third interception. Cannot be returned for a touchdown, and that's a 0. All right, so now we go to the final extra drive of the game, which will include the end of half roll, which I didn't do here. Oh, well. Maybe Army didn't score that touchdown because I didn't roll for end of half for them. Navy was a no. It didn't matter. Army, I should have rolled that here. My mistake, first game. All right, Army. Army gets their extra drive on a 2-5. They roll an 8. That's a no. So they're finished for the game. So this would be no here too. So their last extra drive is a no, I guess, and no defensive points. All right, so now Navy gets the extra drive on a 2-9. They roll a 10, and that's also a no. So we don't even have to check for end of game. And that's also a 0. Or no. Navy scores 7 in the fourth. Army scores 10. And Army wins this game 45-21. Hopefully we get a better one than this tomorrow. Both of these teams are usually up for it, but you never know. I do have to apologize about this mistake here. When Army got the yes here, I should not have gone directly to the drive. I should have rolled again for end of half or end of game. And on a roll of a 2-9, they would have gotten, it would have been the end of half. I believe that's how it works. Let me double check that. I believe those numbers are inclusive. At the end of the game, at the end of the half in the game, if a team is allowed an extra possession, then the end of half or end of game determination will be rolled to see if a play will occur as percentages of a team's possession turns. So I'm going to assume that end of half or end of game occurs in that range. Anything outside of it, they would have gotten that that extra drive to end the half. So Army would have had to roll, Army would have had to roll a 2-9 to get it. I did not do that. Let's do it now and see what happens. They got a 6. I know it doesn't really count. It doesn't really matter. I still had a lot of fun. I won't make that mistake again, I hope. But anyway, if you hung out with me, I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this. First look at this great, I wouldn't call it a quick score game because there's a lot more involved in it, and that's a little bit more than a quick score game. But it's Drive Time Football from Powder Blue Sports. Check out the Facebook group. There's a lot of good stuff there. That's going to do it for this episode. I'll be back again in the near future with another replay video, and until then, take care.